Welcome everyone to another session of TriTech University, and welcome back. It's been a little bit. My name is Bill Steppen, and today we're going to jump into how to take advantage of the integration that AIM has with various online waiver platforms. So, in several of the industries that we focus in, one of which is firearms, and this is probably the most prevalent one, it's quite accustomed to have a liability waiver that the customer will fill out for the purposes of safety and, of course, liability with some of the services that these places tend to offer, typically firearms ranges and safety classes and things like that. And the whole purpose of the liability waiver not only is to cover the store in the case of anything going wrong, but of course just to make sure that the customers themselves are understanding of what they're about to be partaking in, and to make sure that everyone is in the same page as regarding everything that's going to be going on and various numbers to be in touch with, and also sort of kind of things like that. So the idea behind online liability waivers is to be able to give the customers a convenient method in which to review and fill them out, and then that can be connected back into AIM for the purposes of actually both pulling in customer details as well as retaining that liability waiver form that's been completed on the account for future review, as well as to make sure that they have one that is recent and not expired and things like that. So at this time, AIM interacts with and associates with three such services, and we're going to take a look at all three of those from the AIM perspective. I'm not going to get into the details of the back end of these services. I imagine that they're all fairly similar, as we will see from the AIM side of the equation, but just know that each one probably has its own various little idiosyncrasies that you'll want to research and be aware of. So the three services that TriTech and AIM currently work with are Smartwaiver, CityGro, and Otter Waiver. And like I said, we'll be taking a look at each of those in turn. Before we do that, as always, just our typical housekeeping rules. So first and foremost, if this is your first live stream session that you are attending, welcome. We are happy that you're here. Over to the right of the screen, you'll notice there are two tabs, and one is the upcoming schedule, of which you'll probably see I don't have anything set in stone just yet, but the other tab is a chat tab, and if you click on that chat tab, down at the bottom is a nickname button, and go ahead and click that nickname button. That will let you fill out your name, and we can then chat, and you can ask questions if you have any regarding today's topics. And by all means, if anyone here today has any firsthand experience with using the service or anything of that nature, feel free to share that amongst yourselves using the chat option. After all, that's why it's there, is the ability to actually communicate back and forth and across yourselves. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and switch over to my TriTech University AIM demo system here. So when it comes to the online liability waivers, all of them are going to be set up, as far as AIM is concerned, over here in the maintenance menu underneath Active E, and then down here to Active E Setup. So here in Active E Setup, over on this list are all the various services that TriTech integrates with, and let's just go alphabetically. That's probably going to be the easiest. We'll start right here with CityGro. So if you are using CityGro's services, once you are connected and have an account with them, you will come over here and you will enable that CityGro option. From there, you'll plug in your API token that you can generate from your account online with them, as well as plug in your account ID. And then in here, if you so desire, if you're going to be pulling in customer details from what the customers are filling out and then bringing them back into AIM, this is where you can set up any customer fields and custom field keys. So if we just kind of click in here, we're going to click here to add a new row, and you'll notice that basically the idea behind this is any customer fields such as attributes or phone numbers or anything like that, you can associate with field keys that you are setting up that you want them to fill out on the CityGro side of the equation. So if you're asking for certain details and you create those as fields on the CityGro form that you'll be having your customers fill out, you can in turn associate those with the AIM customer field over here. Now, I don't know if I actually have this currently connected to a CityGro account. I think this is just a test account as far as the details above. So that's probably why nothing is showing up here in the AIM customer fields. Plus, I don't think I have any attributes or anything like that set up in here. Below, this is where, as new customers come in from the CityGro connection, if you would like them to automatically be associated with a particular customer default, go ahead and select one here. I've got them set up just to go in as generic cash customers. Likewise, any email addresses that you connect and collect on file for them, you can set up with any one of our typical email methods. I usually recommend the HTML and body just because that way anything that you are turning around and emailing to them just comes in the nice, in the email body itself. There's no external attachments or anything like that. That being said, that is kind of dependent on your customers having email that can read HTML emails. Most in this day and age, I believe, can, but there are a few outliers out there, I'm sure, that have difficulty reading HTML emails. So you can always, on a case-by-case basis, set them up to send their emails out in PDF attachments or Word attachments or things like that. If you would rather that customers are not set up to be able to be emailed automatically or anything like that, you can always default this to do not send emails. And like I mentioned, you can always override that on a customer-by-customer basis. Lastly, this drop down here for last updated, this is something that will autofill as new accounts and liability waivers get pulled down from the CityGro account, so don't worry about filling in anything there. If we go further down the list, we'll go to the next one alphabetically, and that happens to be Otter Waiver. And you'll notice it's basically the same type of setup. So if you are using the Otter Waiver service, you will come in here, you will check mark to enable the Otter Waiver service, you will plug in your ID and secret API key and all that fun stuff from Otter Waiver and your account. You will then do the same idea. You can set up the customer default. You can set up the appropriate default email method. The last updated field here will automatically fill in as you pull in new Otter Waiver liability forms. And once again, any custom fields that you set up on Otter Waiver that you'd like to automatically have pull into a customer attribute field or anything like that, feel free to go ahead and map those accordingly here. Which then, last but not least, brings us to Smartwaiver, and ironically, Smartwaiver is the one that we've probably been connected with the longest, if I'm not mistaken. I think we started off with Smartwaiver, and then at the request of our customers, we added CityGro, and most recently, Otter Waiver. And I think we may be adding a fourth one at some point, but honestly, I'm really not sure what the differences are between the different services. Like I said, feel free to reach out and talk to them. They probably have their own monthly services or fees based on how many waivers you're filling out and things like that. Last but not least, like I said, same basic idea here with Smartwaiver. If you're going to be using them, you'll come in here, you'll check mark to enable it, you'll fill in your API key that you get from them. You'll fill in the customer default email method. You'll notice that this actually has a few extra fields here. So you still have the customer field and custom fields that you can map here, but there is this time adjustment. And you might notice that that is unique to Smartwaiver. Smartwaiver I believe has the added bonus of being able to see exactly the timestamp really easily in when the customer filled out their liability form. Now, in order for that time to reflect appropriately as far as the actual, what's the word I'm looking for, time zone in your locale, you're just going to want to put in here what the number of hours is, positive or negative, between the universal time code and your local time. So here, locally in the central time zone, that is -5 during, I believe, during daylight savings, which is probably when I set this up. So whichever way it needs to go, you'll just put that in there. So that's the idea there. If you are Eastern time, that'll probably be -4. If you are Pacific time, that would probably be -7. I believe it's very easy to just do a Google search and say what time zone am I, and what's the offset between it and UTC, and you can just plug that number right in there. The emergency contact name attribute and contact phone attributes, if you have attributes set up, you can associate those here. So once again, if you have custom customer attributes created, you can then set up specific ones for emergency contact names and phone numbers and plug those in here, so that way when those get collected on Smartwaiver, it'll just automatically fill those in there. The retrieval hours, this is basically how many hours in which to analyze for pulling in new waivers. I've just got that set to 0. And then days since last waiver warning. If a customer has basically not submitted a waiver in, let's say, 30 days, you can plug 30 days in there, and then that way, if their waivers are basically set to expire within 30 days of them filling it out, you can plug that in there. Lastly, there are 2 checkboxes here. Since this is probably the oldest waiver form, and it was something that I believe we looked into specifically for the firearms industry and our firearms customers, there are 2 additional checkbox functions here. So if there is a missing waiver on a customer account, you can be alerted of that either when you are first selecting them at point of sale, or if it's not really necessary to have a waiver on file just for the purposes of making transactions with them, but it is for the purpose of checking them into a range station, then you may want to check mark this so that if they are missing the waiver, it will warn you of that immediately before you are able to assign them to a lane. So that's kind of the idea with all 3 of these setups. If you ever have any specific questions, you can always click the link up here. That'll take you right to our online form specific to those functions, and we've got all of that information spelled out there online. And of course, you can always give our support team a call if you need to. So that's the setup of it. I don't believe there are... Let's just take a peek here together. Are there any? Yes, there are a couple of system variables that are relating to waivers, mainly to do with coloration and such. So as we can see, if the customer has an expired waiver, you can set up this particular variable to have a color code. So essentially, when a customer is being viewed on the customer selection screen, if AIM sees that they have an expired waiver, we can make them show up in a specific color. Maybe we want that color to be, let's say this purplish color here. So we can select that, and that'll plug in the RGB value specific to that. So if they have an expired waiver, that will be how they get displayed right there. Alternatively, if they have a missing waiver, then you can plug in a color code for that. These are override colors, just so that you are aware. If you're not aware, back in the customer defaults, each color or each different default can have their own specific color coding for the purposes of easily determining what type of customer they are based on just how they show up on the selection screen. You can give them a default color. You can also give them a loyalty color if they are also a member of your customer rewards program. So these are the default colors based on the default, but these colors will override. So as you can see, it says if set, the customer search will use this font color when displaying customers with a missing waiver. Likewise, this will use this color if they are displaying customers with an expired waiver. The last one here, they show last waiver date. If you want to easily have a little spot on the customer history screen to see when was the last date that a customer filled out a waiver, feel free to go ahead and change that to a capital Y, and that'll have the additional little date just like we will see when we go in and look at an account. And just for giggles, let's do that right now. So let's go into customer history, and I don't have any customers with waivers, but as we can see up here, there is this last waiver field here. I can't make any selections. It'll just display the last time that a waiver was pulled in from any of those three services. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's see how these waivers can be pulled in from the various services. If we go to the modules menu and go to customers, we actually have three separate windows for these three different waiver services. I don't know why you couldn't just have them all in one, but I'm sure that since they all individually communicate with their specific program, that's why we have the Smartwaiver and the CityGro and the Otter Waiver as all of their own unique functions, even though if we pull them all up here, you'll actually see that they all look almost exactly the same. So that's the Smartwaiver, here's the CityGro, and then if we go to the last one, the Otter Waiver, as you can see, they're all almost carbon copies of each other. There's a few little differences here and there, I'm sure, but we're just going to work with the Smartwaiver one just because why not? So here in the Smartwaiver form or any form, we can see up here there's a little drop down that says either show new, show all, or show by date range. Now that would basically be for the purpose of seeing waivers that are needing to be reviewed, but the main thing here is to click this Get Waivers button. This will pull in the range of waivers from the past number of X hours based on that setting from before in the Smartwaiver Active E setup area. I believe if you leave it at 0, it will check by default for a day or two, but whatever you want it to be, you can just basically set that up here. I believe, I'm going to get sidetracked here, but I believe there is also the ability to set up a task for pulling in waivers. So let's just check that quick here. Yep, so you can see there's options for getting CityGro records, Smartwaiver records, and I imagine there is also an Otter Waiver. Is there not? Maybe there is not for Otter Waiver. So if you would like this to be automated, then it looks like right now the two primarily are for CityGro and Smartwaiver. Maybe we don't have an Otter Waiver just yet, which is so much fun to say 5 times fast. But basically, if you do that, then it'll just automatically pull in the brand newest waivers based on whatever schedule you set up for that task. If that just went completely over your head as far as what I meant by tasks, AIM can basically create tasks for the purposes of just automating functions throughout the course of the day or the week or whatever. So there are other sections, other videos that I've done on setting up tasks. You can check those out. If nothing else, you can, I believe, go to the administrative playlist on the main videos page, and there should be a section in there all about setting up tasks. And once again, if you have any questions, you can always give our support team a call. So getting back to the function at hand here, when pulling in waivers, once you get those waivers, it will basically display the name that the customer filled out online and the day and time that they created them on. As you select a given waiver line, their additional details will appear over here as far as address, city, state, zip code, email, phone number, etc., etc. And then If they are already associated with a customer account, in which case most likely they will not be, but if they were, their account number will already show up here. The idea here is as you select an account, you will either try to match the customer or create a customer. And 9 times out of 10, I always recommend clicking the Match Customer button first. If you've seen me do any other sessions on any of these Active-E connectivities regarding pulling in or updating customer records, matching a customer is just a quick, easy way to see if there is a potential record already existing for that customer. Maybe they've been a brick and mortar store customer for you in the past, and now we're going to connect the form that they filled out online and their associated liability waiver with the existing account. If it finds any potential matches based on name, address, email, or phone number, it will display those, but it will not pick an automatic match. You always have the final say in determining whether you feel the existing account is the same as the account that's being pulled in. If you determine that they are the same, it'll also pop up and ask if you'd like to update any differences between what they filled out online and what you already have on hand. Maybe, for example, they have moved to a new physical address, and so the address that you have on file is different from the address that they had online, that they filled out online. Or maybe they have a new phone number, or maybe they have a new email address. But either way, it would have paired them up by one or more of those functions, and then it will give you the opportunity to update the others if you feel that the update is valid. If, for example, you see that maybe they actually had a typo in their address and you believe that what you have on hand is actually correct, you can always choose to leave it as is. So again, you have the final say in all of that. If you determine that there are no suitable matches, or it actually comes back and says no matches found, simply click Create Customer. It'll autofill everything in. It'll use the default customer default that you selected from back in the settings. As always, you can update that on a case-by-case basis if you need to. But either way, once you've either matched or created the account, their account number will now show here, and then ultimately, basically, that will then save the waiver to that customer account. So that's basically the idea with that. Now, this bulk match function will basically try to match new waivers to AIM customers if there is only one match found. So if you are doing a lot of waivers every day, it will be a huge time saver to basically click this bulk match. It'll try and match those up based on any matches. If it doesn't find any matches, or if there is no one match, then it'll just leave them as is for you to either match manually or create the accounts. But that's basically the gist of it. Once again, if we look at the other forms such as CityGro or the Otter Waiver, you can see it's basically the same idea. You get the waivers, you match or create the accounts, you do the bulk match if you so desire. And then if we look at the Otter Waiver, it's more of the same. So that's basically the idea. Once the account is either matched or created and the waivers have been downloaded, back on the customer account, if we go and pull up the customer history, and we'll just pull up Mike here, the waivers themselves will actually be attached to the account. So you'd be able to click this attach button. Of course, we don't have a storage folder, so it's a good thing I tried this because you'll want to make sure this is set up. A storage folder is a physical location on your server for storing files such as PDFs of waivers and so forth. So you'll want to make sure that you've got that set up. That'll be back in your workstation settings. So maintenance, general, and workstations. Now, if you just have the one computer, this will be easy. If you do have multiple computers, I do recommend, if at all possible, that you point all of your different computers back to the same path for the storage folder. So here on the laptop, technically it is my local computer as the server. So 1 and 2 are actually the same computer. I've just got them set up here as separate workstations. But you would come to this 7th tab, this Files tab, And then here in this area, you would want to make sure, let's see, I've got the image folder, I've got the contact manager, I've got just about everything except the customer attachment storage folder. So you click the add button here, you would select the customer attachment storage folder, and then you would point it to a file path. And I usually recommend that that path be within the AIM folder itself on your server. I usually would recommend creating a new subfolder, and let's just call this customer attachments. And then I would select that, so you can kind of see that that's pointing to that file path here. I would save that, and then I would just make sure that, say for example, on the point of sale Iowa City computer, that its path to the customer attachment storage folder goes through to that same path. In order for that to be successful, you're going to need to make sure you do that from the computer itself. If I try to set it up here, it's not going to be the same path because this would be the local C drive, and that just wouldn't be the case for a remote computer like the point of sale in Iowa City or Station 14 or any other computers that they have set up here. But that's basically it. With the attachment folder set up and the waivers being automatically pulled in on the customer history, you'd be able to pull up the account. It would show up as an attachment here, and then you would simply be able to double click on it, and that would pull up the PDF exactly how it might look if you were to log in to your waiver account online, Smartwaiver, CityGro, etc., and look at the waivers and pull them up there. So it would have all of the forms that you would normally have them fill out, along with everything that they did fill out, and it would just be right there in the PDF format for you to, if you so desire, physically print or otherwise just have on file for a customer. So that's basically the gist of it. Let me know if there are any questions. I don't see any questions coming in on the online chat here, so hopefully this is making sense. Once again, feel free to use the online help. Feel free to use our technical support, any other resources that we have if you have any questions about this. If you want to find out what other customers of ours are saying about the various waiver platforms, if you are on our Platinum maintenance plan, I definitely encourage using our forums that we make available for our Platinum customers to kind of talk to each other and interact. So if you are on the Platinum plan, you can go to the help menu where there will be a link to the online forums, sign up for an account there, and check that out. That's basically the idea behind those, is to share topics and help with each other in ways that we here at TriTech are probably not best suited for, because here at in our support, for example, all we know is that we interface with 3 different platforms. We really couldn't tell you why Smartwaiver might be better or worse than CityGro, might be better or worse than Otter Waiver. We just connect with them all. So definitely take advantage of that. As far as upcoming webinars or live streams, I have another one scheduled for the April 25th. We'll get back to our normal Tuesday, every second and fourth Tuesdays. This one got moved up one day to the Monday, just because I'll be traveling tomorrow for a trade show and out the rest of the week. So hopefully this hasn't been too big of a distraction. I know actually last month I didn't get any live streams going on just because of travel and other sorts of commitments outside of the office, so I do apologize for that. But this one has been in the planning for a bit, and I did see that someone in our poll section asked for a review of our waiver platform. So hopefully this has been beneficial. I know someone also asked for a walkthrough on the locally interface. So I'm hoping to be able to get that one done for the 25th. Otherwise, if there are any other topics that you would like to see, definitely go and put those down in the poll section. We'd love to hear what you want to see, because that is the whole idea behind these broadcasts, is to get you the information that we can give you based on what you want to see, because otherwise I'm just going to come up with random topics, and maybe they'll be helpful, maybe they won't be, but knowing what you want to know, it helps me out greatly. So thank you so much for your time and your attendance today, and we will stay in touch. And if there's anything more we can do, just let us know. And I hope you can all make it a great day. Take care.